Madam President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express my most sincere respect and thanks to the President of the General Assembly and the Secretary General for their strong statements of support and for standing firm with UNRWA and its mission, especially over this extraordinarily challenging time for Palestine refugees. To all the delegations here, let me emphasize my deep appreciation for your participation in this pledging conference, which I recall is a regular feature in the UN General Assembly calendar, and the date of which was set in December of 2018. And to thank the General Assembly members also for their continued support. Allow me to extend heartfelt expressions of gratitude also to all of the member states of the United Nations, both countries hosting Palestine refugees and donors, for their extraordinary trust and support to UNRWA since its operations began in 1950. Together, we can sincerely say that we have contributed to one of the most remarkable human development processes and significantly advanced key sustainable development goals for Palestine refugees, notably in education, health, and beyond. But never was your support more remarkable than in 2018, when our agency was confronted with its most severe institutional and funding crisis ever. 42 different countries and institutions from all corners of the world increased their contributions to UNRWA last year, and we took a number of difficult internal measures and reduced expenditures by a total of $92 million last year alone. Through these combined efforts, we last year successfully overcame an unprecedented deficit of $446 million US. And in doing so, we contributed to stability in a troubled region and demonstrated the continued importance of multilateral mechanisms for addressing our common challenges. We are particularly indebted to the leadership of Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the wider UN family, who resolutely stood with UNRWA every step of the way during these most challenging times. And as I look into the room, there are so many words of appreciation that come to mind. Every single pledge that was made last year was honored before the end of 2018, which is another truly impressive achievement. And I wish to extend sincere recognition to all our partners, in particular governments and intergovernmental institutions, as well as the many private donors and foundations that contributed to that effort as well. Your actions and support were vital in keeping open the 708 schools that UNRWA runs for over 500,000 female and male students in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, in the Gaza Strip, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. The generous support you provided also preserved the primary health care services for 8.5 million patient visits through our network of 144 clinics, and despite the pressures, our emergency services to 1.5 million refugees, mainly in Gaza, the West Bank, and Syria. At a time when Palestine refugees face the near complete absence of a political horizon, I'm strongly convinced that preserving UNRWA services is a crucial contribution in terms of human dignity and regional stability. Turning to 2019, we have been able to maintain essential UNRWA operations between January and the end of May. The school year was successfully completed last week. And as we speak, however, UNRWA has begun, and this was mentioned by the Secretary General, to run short of the funding to ensure the continuation of all of our programs. We are now facing a funding gap that will indeed rise through the year in the absence of new contributions. It is therefore absolutely crucial to avoid a breakdown, for example, of our food pipeline for 1 million people in the Gaza Strip. It is similarly essential that UNRWA can open the next school year on time in August and September. Your contributions are vital, and what you enable with your funding is in no way abstract. When over 500,000 boys and girls were able to return to their schools on time last year, it was a moment of celebration, pure and simple. The education Palestine refugee students receive in UNRWA schools is often the only bit of horizon that remains, a space to learn and acquire skills, but also a safe haven in the midst of war, destruction, and despair. There are so many stories of adversity and courage, and one that comes to mind is that of 6-year-old Qasem, a Palestine refugee in Syria. His family had to flee Yarmouk camp near Damascus during the war and was sheltered in an UNRWA school. Qasem was born in that school, and today he studies in the very classroom in which he was born, in a school that became a shelter and has become a school once again, and this thanks to your outstanding support. As was mentioned, two of our proud students, Hanan and Hatem, represent this exemplary student community, and we look forward to hearing from them. We must persevere, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. The situation in the Middle East remains critical in so many ways. In Gaza, the depth of the psychosocial trauma resulting from years of conflict, blockade, and violence, and affecting almost every family in the Strip, has reached what UNRWA's health staff describe as epidemic proportions. In the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, the lives of Palestine refugees are defined in every aspect by the ongoing occupation, from home demolitions to forced evictions, lack of freedom of movement, and violence. How many times have I heard young UNRWA students speak of the pressures and fears that they daily deal with when crossing checkpoints, and yet every day they are back on their way because at the other end of that checkpoint is the school that they study in and which represents their future. Palestine refugees need and deserve a just and lasting political solution. Until then, we are determined to live up to the mandate that the UN General Assembly bestowed upon us. As I said, we must persevere, and on the occasion of this pledging conference, I humbly call on all of you to sustain the positive dynamic we created in 2018 and early this year. In financial terms, we indeed launched a global appeals for $1.2 billion for our operations in 2019. This is the exact amount that we mobilized last year. In other words, if every single partner and donor could maintain its level of contribution of last year, we would cover our financial needs. This has been my message to you and your national and institutional leaderships since the beginning of 2019. Additional funding announcements that you may be prepared to make today would in that sense be of great importance. For its part, UNRWA will continue to manage its operations with strong financial discipline and a determination to achieve further efficiencies. Together, through UNRWA's continued operations, we can contribute to human dignity and regional stability. More than anything else, we are doing this not for the sake of UNRWA itself, but for Palestine refugees. It is for Hanan and Hatem and the 500,000 students that they represent. We truly must not let them down. I thank you, Madam President.